Now that you've been fitted into the jetpack, let's take a closer look at the right-hand controls and familiarize you with the floating positions. Low taxi position, high taxi position, free flight, and landing. The right-hand controls consist of the throttle grip, start-stop button, and safety lanyard. At this time, the throttle grip should be rotated all the way to the left until it stops. This is the idle position. The jetlev engine should always be started in the idle position, and it should stay in this position until the instructor asks you to take over the throttle. When instructed, push the start-stop button to start the engine. To stop the engine, press the same button again, or pull the safety lanyard off its post. Practice pulling the lanyard off its post. In an emergency, pull the lanyard off to stop the engine. The jetpack has natural flotation. After you enter the water, try to float leaning back with your face well above the water and get comfortable wearing the jetpack. This is the recommended floating position and is quite comfortable. Practice getting and staying in this position. If you try to float upright, the positive buoyancy of the jetpack and recommended wetsuit may tend to float you in a face-forward position. If you find yourself face down or tilting to one side, you can easily maneuver to the recommended floating position by either rolling to the side or leaning back, paddling backwards. Here's how you roll to the side. And here's how you lean back to maneuver into the recommended floating position. The low taxi position is where you are flying with the surface of the water at chest level. There are only two purposes to this exercise. One, to teach you, the student pilot, the correct nozzle angle in order to maintain the neutral position using low jet power. And two, as a safe, slow forward position during landing approach prior to touchdown. Your instructor will guide you to a designated area with sufficient depth. Check that your throttle grip has been turned all the way to the left to the idle position, and signal OK to the instructor to verify this. Your instructor will ask you to push the start-stop button at the bottom of the right-hand control grip. Once you start the engine, the hose will fill and you will rise and start moving. If you find yourself moving forward, raise the control arms up gradually until you stop moving forward. If you find yourself moving backwards, then lower the control arms gradually until you stop moving backwards. When you are not moving backwards or forwards, you are in the neutral position. Remember this because you will be using the neutral position again and again. Relax your legs and let them hang comfortably underneath you and use the jet nozzles to keep your balance. Take a minute to feel this balance before practicing slow, gradual movement of the control arms to go forward. Neutral. Short reverse. Neutral, then into forward again. You will find that slow forward speeds add to directional stability. Excessive forward speeds while in low taxi will tend to push your face closer to the water. Practice raising the control arms gradually to recover from excessive speed. Your instructor will move you to the next level when he or she feels you're ready. Some may be ready in less than a minute. Others may take longer. High taxi position is where the surface of the water is roughly at your knee level. The purpose of the high taxi is to allow you to practice forward flight and turns while adding directional stability by dragging your feet in the water. In this mode, you will learn how to maintain a steady speed and altitude for controlled flight and to make turns. You can choose to fly higher and slower, or lower and faster by very gently adjusting the control arms up and down. Avoid constantly making adjustments, or you will climb and descend excessively. Keep the control arms steady. To begin a right turn, think of the control grips as a steering wheel in a car. Lower the right-hand grip and raise the left one to start the turn, while leaning into the turn as you would ride a bicycle. Try a few wide left and right turns. It is important to become familiar with the turning in a high taxi because learning to turn in free flight will become more difficult due to lower directional stability. Typically, high taxi training lasts from 2 to 5 minutes. Free flight is when you fly with your feet out of the water. As the instructor raises you out of the water, you will notice that the weight of the hose has a tendency to tilt you backwards. To correct this, pull the control arms down slightly as in the neutral position exercise. When you are flying forward, slowly with your feet clearly out of the water, try to feel the trapeze with your feet and step toes first into it 1 foot at a time. To maintain stability, Remember to mount the trapeze only while flying forward and do it without looking down. You can transfer some of your weight from the seat to the trapeze to increase comfort and stability. This helps compensate for the loss of stability when you no longer drag your feet in the water. Again, practice maintaining a steady speed and altitude with steady control arms. You should adjust the control arm angles in very small amounts, and you should neutralize the adjusting movement before you reach the desired altitude. Many beginners overshoot the desired altitude because they make the mistake of leveling out the adjusting movement a little too late. If you find yourself constantly climbing and descending for no apparent reason, you are probably making this mistake. Now practice your left and right turns again. After practicing this, your instructor will ask you to make a slow approach to a designated area to learn how to practice landing safely in open water. Landing is the most critical maneuver because it involves transitioning through free flight, high taxi, and low taxi positions to come to a complete and controlled stop in a designated area. When landing in shallow water near the shore, there are more hazards and your risk of injuries are somewhat higher for a beginner. This is why we train landings in deep water. As you approach for landing, the instructor will slowly reduce your power to a low taxi position. As you reach the landing point, raise the control arms in a slow, gradual upward movement to reach the neutral position, and the instructor will lower you for a simulated touchdown. Once you have landed, your instructor will ask you to check that the throttle grip is still turned all the way to the left idle position.